What is up, profitable stylists? You all are working very, very hard. Well, how hard are you working? You working for tomorrow? You working for today? What's going on, Bernard? How are you working?
I like I like the change up. Um, that's been a big change in my life. When you say you're working for today or working for tomorrow, when I said that when we were talking, was it last week? I
Last
think
week,
it's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, we need to talk about this because most stylists, in my experience across the country, as I was teaching classes, I'd meet them many times. Many times they are the secondary income, and so they don't really even think about benefits or the future, and they're just like, you know what, my spouse, my husband, my wife has the professional job that comes with insurance, comes with 401k. I'm just making a little extra money, or I'm working part-time. And I'm not saying that's all stylists, because we focus on the profitable stylists, how to be profitable. And if you're going to be profitable and be the primary source of income, which I've always been in my family, well, I say always. Vincey did make a little more money than me when we first met for a year or two.
Oh,
I was going
you
through it.
you you felt competitive. You had to kick it up and that.
Well, I want to give her credit, because my salon, it went up and down through the years, and I was in a little bit of a downtime. And when we got together, she was making more. Now it was a job compared to business ownership, and that's a whole nother topic that we could talk about, because I like the benefits of owning the business, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. But I've transformed over the years to thinking of the future more and more. And so when I am asked to do something or do a job, I even as little as doing one client's hair, I don't think about the today as much as I think about the tomorrow in
Mm.
everything I do. When I'm doing somebody's hair, I'm thinking it's fine for right now, but I've got to live in the future, and that's what marketing's all about. What am I going to do in the future? If I'm doing this client's hair now, will I ever do it again? When will I do it? How often will I do it? How much will I do? What can I do to this person? And so that's like the very beginning of thinking about the future. But again, that's all on my shoulders. And so when I'm talking about working for today and working for tomorrow, I'm talking about making more money doing the same or less work. And that is where people say work smarter, not harder. I'm talking about working so smart, much more intelligently. Not that you have to be smart, but you just have to know how. One of the things you're doing that we've been doing is options trading.
Hmm.
That's something you work for 10 or 15 minutes on a Monday morning, maybe 30 minutes, and you make a decent amount of money.
And I'm
Of
loving
course,
it. I am having fun, and I look forward to every. I get mad when the market is closed on Monday.
and I know that's over a lot of people's heads, because it was over mine for a long time too. And that's probably the end of the road. But I'd like to talk about a few things in between. And I just thought, um, most people have heard of Robert Kiyosaki's series called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Have you at least heard of Rich Dad Poor
I've
Dad?
heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yes, that I've
Have
heard
you
of.
read any of his books?
I
Possibly.
I have not.
It's okay. I stumbled upon the first one somehow years ago, and I think it was just called Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a pretty good read, a pretty good story, but he mostly focuses on real estate, and most people aren't ready to go into real estate. So the one of his books, I think that was kind of his first book. It was his story, how he grew up, what the differences between the rich and the poor dad. His dad, he considered poor because he had a job, and his best friend's dad was a business owner and controlled his income. They were on the island of Hawaii when all this is going on. And I wouldn't recommend the book Rich Dad Poor Dad necessarily first. We have a link in the description to a book that he writes later called Cash Flow Quadrant. I'll explain that in a second. But he ends up learning from, they ask his best friend Mike's dad, will you teach us how to be rich? And he's like, yes. And part of that training was some really hard knocks and some really habit forming things. And he talks about his childhood and how he got into it. It's a good story, but it's not as educational. It's just a good story. And then I think after he wrote that, he started realizing, he started getting into his writing. I don't know, coming into his writing, and he started realizing how to. He writes one on how to incorporate. He writes a lot of really good books, and the one that's really stood out to me, and I've even bought and given to a few people in my life, is Cash Flow Quadrant. And the most, I guess, the part that helps me understand the whole avenue of making money is his quadrant. It's a quadrant, and in the four corners are, I wrote it down here so I wouldn't get nervous and forget. It all starts with being an employee,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. And so when I first saw the first two, employee, self-employed, I realized the difference there. When you're an employee, you're getting paid and you don't control much. Then most hairdressers, most, it's hard to say, depending on how you're structured, can be considered self-employed. But the thing that blew me away was I saw self-employed business owner, and that's where I got confused. And I was thinking they were the same thing. So without me going much more into detail, and you not knowing the book, you would be like most of the hairdressers out there. What stands out in your head? Like, do you have a rough idea what the difference might be?
Between a self-employed and a business owner.
Yeah, yeah. There's a
Self
lot of similarities and then some differences.
self-employed is self-employed feels good. You're working for yourself. You get to call the shots. You are creating something. I think self-employment is the beginning of becoming a business owner, because to me, being a
True.
business owner is okay. When I first opened my salon, I was, everyone's like, "Oh, you're a business owner now." I'm like, "Nah." At the time, I was telling people I don't even have employees. I'm the business owner of myself. So I got to tell myself to go answer the phone, do the laundry, go wash the hair, go apply the color, go check them out, go order retail and restock shelves and
That's
stuff.
a good analogy. That's a
Right?
good analogy. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Self-employed, basically, you own the job. You
I owned the job.
you
It
might be
wasn't
a
until I hired in more employees that I actually felt like I was running a business. That's my take on it.
and in the salon world, because I know it so well, many stylists do get to the point when they own a salon, they still are both. They are self-employed and a business owner. And Robert Kiyosaki has his definition of a business owner, and I mean it fluctuates, but it's basically where you don't have to be in or at the business, and you still make money. So his take on it, and I don't remember the exact amount of time. I think it was 6 months. I think he said you should be able to like step away from your business, go to another country, vacation, travel, whatever, and maybe just with a phone call a day or a week, just maybe get some feedback of what's going on, give a little feedback, and just with a few words, maybe keep that business making the same or more money over 6 months without actually physically working in the business. He considered that true business ownership. There's a lot of different levels. If you just lived in a town and you visited your business once a day and didn't actually do the physical work, I would call that business ownership. Obviously, the longer you can be away, the less often you have to communicate, the more powerful business owner you are. But that's kind of the difference. You're right. Self-employed, you're a business owner, but you are the employee of your business.
Right.
You own
You
it.
got to yell at yourself. You got to motivate yourself. You got to pay yourself. You got to take your own money away for taxes yourself.
Right. And so, as I was self-employed for a long time, I thought I was a business owner. I own this thing.
Yeah,
And
right.
but I remember there was a time when I had 6 or 7 stylists working with me, and I started doing the math one day, and I made a little bit more money than all of them combined. And so the bills were getting paid, but it was all because of my income. And that little bit less than what I made was what all of them together made, was the fun money for me, the business ownership money. So I realized, wow, if I quit doing hair, I couldn't pay the bills here, or I could barely pay the bills, and then I wouldn't have anything to live on. So to me, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of a business owner, but I can't step away. So what kind of business owner is that? So that's the first goal, I think, for hairdressers to think about is, listen, you don't necessarily, I know some salons pay benefits, insurance, and a lot of good things. But I was, somebody messaged me. I did a little shout out on Facebook that we were going to be doing this today. And the girl said, I love this because I'm talking about retirement and life insurance. And I don't know if she answered my question, but those are some of the first steps too. Uh, I want to, God, I hope I don't offend anybody here, but I'm going to talk a tiny bit about life insurance. I
Okay.
took a class and I learned how to sell life insurance. I did it for a few months, but that was not my love, my passion, my future. But I got life insurance on me and my wife. And what I want to mention is a lot of people are sold life insurance in one of two ways. One is whole life insurance, one is term life insurance. And there's a huge difference in price. They both do the same thing. One just mostly takes too much money from you. They say there's a lot of benefits, and maybe there are some, but whole life is very expensive. And most people cannot afford whole life, and then they'll tell you it's an investment, you're saving up a nest egg, you can borrow against it. There's a lot of these supposed benefits that you don't have right now if you don't have life insurance, so you may not need them. Term life is very inexpensive, very cheap for a lot. So you just say, for the thought process is, most people get a 20-year term. In the 20 years, what you should do is get the real low price of 20-year term life insurance, and and during the 20 years, you should be investing. And then you should have enough of an investment. And if you didn't die in the 20 years, hopefully you don't, then you have enough in savings and in mutual funds and in stocks and things we'll talk about here in a minute, that you don't need life insurance anymore because you're self insured. You've made money. Whereas, so you don't need a whole life policy because that ends up being a lot more expensive. I don't want to go into a great deal about that, but with a lot of knowledge and studying about insurance, term life is the way to go, really cheap and worth it. And it's one of the first things that a family should have to protect themselves. If you're starting to have children and bills and you die, your wife needs to be able to, if she's a stay-at-home mom, she's eventually going to need to start making money. So you need enough to pay off the bills, pay off the house, and give a little bit of enough money to live on and go to school to get a new education in life that will also cover childcare and get a new profession for that spouse, that surviving spouse, either way. And so you got to think of it both ways. For me and my wife, I had to think about, if I die, I'm the one that's working and making the money. We need a little more life insurance on me. If she dies, I still need some help. I got a kid at
Yeah,
home that
right.
might need care, looking after. Somebody's got to cook for me. That's our roles. She loves cooking. I will die if I'm going to eat out all the time. So I need to think about, how am I going to provide the things that she provides
Yeah, I've seen
for
you
more
try to
money.
boil rice.
Oh, that's so funny. Our kids were talking about boiling rice on our ski trip last weekend, how to boil rice. They all had different ideas. You fill the water to the pot of a certain knuckle. I'm like,
That's
how
all
do
you
you
need.
know?
That's
Yeah, so I have
all
no.
you need.
Uh, I was like, is that a thing really? Your knuckle? And my wife's like, yep, I taught those boys right. So I don't want to get too deep into certain topics, but this is kind of where it starts. If you're going to start thinking about the future, we're mostly thinking about surviving right now. And I think a lot of hairdressers need to think about a few things. The right now is life insurance, and then start thinking about, even if you don't plan on doing the self-employed or business ownership thing, it's fine. But I said employee, self-employed, business owner, and then investor. And you can do some of these at the same time, like you're doing. So you get to the point where maybe you're just self-employed, and that's fine. And your future might not be business ownership. Although Robert Kiyosaki says, uh, working for yourself or business ownership is the first way to make more money. And then use some of that money, put it to the side. And I said life insurance was first. RJ is probably on there commenting saying, no, emergency
Investing
fund.
emergency fund.
Yeah, emergency fund. And a really common number, I mean, of course, some people need more, some maybe less, is $1,000. It needs to be completely liquid. It can't be tied up in a stock or a CD or a bond. But you've got to have $1,000 in cash, in a, I don't know, under your mattress, in a safety deposit box, in somewhere, not in your checking or savings where you see it every day and tempted to use it. It's got to be available to be used in case you have a blowout on a tire, you need a washer, a dryer, a short-term emergency. That should be your very first step before saving anything else. And then that will prove that you can save. Anything you want to add to all this? I've been doing a lot of the
Yeah,
talking.
so you need a minimum of $1,000, right? And then
Right.
realistically, what you want to start building towards, your first goal should be to, you got to compile all of your bills in 1 month, and then times that by 6. And you should have, well, whatever that total comes out to, 10,000, 12,000, 15, whatever that total comes down to, you should eventually then build up to having a nice little 6 months worth of backup of emergency
Some people say
fund.
3, some say 6, some say a whole year. But right, if you're building towards something, 6 months is a good number because God forbid you get hurt. A lot of people have insurances, health insurance that doesn't pay right away, or you've got to pay something and then get the money later. And so what money do you use in the meantime? You break an arm and you're just out for a few weeks. Yeah, health insurance covers the break and all, but they don't cover all your bills
The other
that you
thing
have.
is, I'm not sure if I'm getting ahead of you or not, but every time you get paid, every time you make money, a rule of thumb is to take 15, 20% of that and put it away and put that towards your future.
So you're not getting ahead. That is the next thing I was going to talk about. But let me make it. This is something that made me understand it better. I went through a few different trainings on how to save money, how to pay bills, how to be, more successful in life. And I think a lot of Dave Ramsey's ways of doing things really helped me understand. And one was, he says, sucks it out of my account. He said, basically, you pay bills, right? And there's a lot of automatic drafts these days. You have maybe your car note auto just sucks out of your account. And he's like, it sucks it out of your account. You pay a lot of bills just getting sucked out of your account, even if it's a credit card. And so why shouldn't a savings be the same way? And that's what he said. He said, so he's figured out all of his bills and all of his income. And then he says, I try to get the rest of that money just sucked out of my account into something, whatever it is. So it could be a savings account. The start for me is I open another account at the bank that I deal with. And at that bank, when I open that savings account or checking account, they say, what kind of checks would you like? 0. I want no checks. And so there's a start. It doesn't pay much, but it's a good place to start saving. And the reason why a lot of times mine are checking accounts instead of savings accounts is because sometimes there's advantages to just opening that checking account while you're at the bank or online. There's no minimum to put in it. There's no fee. Sometimes savings, they expect more. Sometimes a checking. So either one, it doesn't matter because it's going to be in this list of accounts you have when you go to your online banking, and you can just transfer money to where you need it. But because you can transfer, I set up an automatic transfer. Every week, it just transfers a certain amount. Actually, from the main account, I'll have a certain amount transfer to 3 or 4 different accounts for different reasons. And that's where Dave Ramsey or RJ call buckets. You have your bills bucket, your play bucket, your emergency fund bucket, your vacation bucket. And so you figure out what things in life are coming up during the year that are important to you, and you start saving towards those. One year, I decided next year we're going to go snow skiing, and I want to pay for the whole family. What's it going to cost? And then I divided it by it was like 10 months away. And then I said, oh, that's a lot monthly, but it seems like a lot more palatable if I do it weekly.
Mm-hmm.
By the amount of weeks. And each week, I don't know what it was, a couple $100, pulled right out of my account, went right into the vacation fund. And by the end of the year, I had $7,000 or $8,000. And I said, guys, I'll get the big giant room that we all stay in. You just fly you guys there, get your own lift tickets, and we'll go skiing. I'll pay for all the lodging. And it felt really good. I even paid for some lift tickets for the immediate family. Some of the kids that moved out paid for their own. So, the main point is whatever you're saving for, there should be some IRA, Roth IRA also. You're letting it just suck out of your account immediately. So at the end of each week, you see your checking account as, ooh, I don't have much left. That's how it should look, so you don't get tempted to spend money.
Yeah, you're mentioning Dave Ramsey, and then RJ's commenting here as well. So the very, very first thing you do is you save up $1,000.
Yes.
You got yourself a nice little start to your emergency fund. A lot of people argue about credit card debts and just paying off loans, student loans, mortgages, car notes, things like that. When I went through my debt snowball, I went through a program called Richer Than You Think. And I had an amazing coach. Her name was Kathleen Prendergast. Look her up. She was absolutely phenomenal. A big help to me. And she used the whole Dave Ramsey program, The start of the debt snowball is you got to list out all of your stuff.
Yep.
The idea is hit the hardest percentage of APR. So whoever's interest rate is the highest, you need to knock them out first. A lot of people
Right.
think, oh, I have a lower balance at a lower percent. I'll just get rid of this. It's so much easier to tackle. The difference is if you've got the same $1,000 debt and one person's charging you 10%, the other person's charging you 25%. And some of these credit cards are 24, 28, 30%. It's insane, man. If you're paying the lower percentage, the higher percentage one is adding up that much faster. The interest is compiling and compounding that much faster, you know?
And you've got that minimum payment on everything, and some people are paying a little more on all of them trying to get them. And you're saying stay with the minimum payment on everything,
On the
and
lower percentage ones.
right, and see what extra money you can put towards anything, and put it towards a higher percentage one, get it
Mhm.
paid off,
Mhm.
and then take that minimum payment plus the extra and apply all of that to the next highest.
And that's the snowball. So if you're sending, let's just say a $10 minimum, a $20 minimum, a $15 minimum, right? That's 30, 45 bucks. And you have another 100 to send that 100, right? Once you pay off that $30 minimum, now start sending that 100 plus that 30 minimum, send
Right.
$130 to the next dude and pay that
Yep.
sucker off. And then take that $10 or $15 plus the 130. Now you've got a $140, $145 payment. Send all of that to the next guy. And that's the snowball effect. And once you get all of that paid off, a lot of people think, and this is something I did with my younger sister and brother when they had their car payments. And back then their car payment was $200. When they paid off the car, especially my brother, who was like, oh my God, now I have $200 to actually spend, not on
Blow.
car. Yeah, right. I can blow off $200. I'm like, no, 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 no. That $200 now is still getting drawn out of your account every month. It's going into a saving account, sucker. You don't get to enjoy that $200 because
How about putting it
mentally,
away for the next car,
or
so
for
you
the
don't
next
have
car,
to
right?
have a note next time, right?
So yeah, that's how, that's the snowball. That's the start of the snowball. So getting the debts out of the way is really going to free you up psychologically, mentally, and physically. It's really going to do wonders towards helping you save up for your full, like, 6 months, 3 months, 12 months
So then,
emergency fund.
so then some of you guys might even apply that large amount now to the house note after you get the credit cards, the car, any other bills you have. Then you got a house note. Some would argue that it's okay to have a house note over time because they're generally very low interest rates and you can make more on the money investing. So you have to decide now. Do you continue to pay the house off because you want to, it feels good, it's secure, or you put a portion towards that and a portion towards retirement? And I want to go through a list here that RJ has taught a few Dave Ramsey classes. I've been in it a couple of times. God, I think I even taught it one time. It's been so many years. So I confirmed with him the order. And the very first thing he says is the $1,000 liquid emergency fund. There's no return on that. You're keeping it liquid, so there's no interest being paid on it.
Mm-hmm.
But then, what I found fascinating about Dave Ramsey is he gave an order of the least risky, also least paying, the comfort area, and then he goes through the order of what you could do with your money. There's a lot of little side avenues you can take. Investing in a friend's business, very risky. But right away, there's a savings account. Some banks will pay a little bit more for a savings account than they do for a checking account. But like I said before, it's whatever one's cheaper to open is the one to do, because it might pay some 0.5%. I don't even think they pay 1% these days. There was a day when they paid 2 and 3%, and people thought that was great. But it's not worth the percentage they give you to keep your money there. But it's a start of where to hold money because it's pretty liquid there. And then in the order of what pays a little more, next is CDs. Now, bonds fit in there somewhere, but we don't understand bonds, so we don't really talk about it much. But a CD, RJ calls certificate of depression, I think, or depreciation. That's not really the name, but it pays so little. It's kind of stupid. You got to give your money, and I think there's 6 months, 12 months. You give your money, and they say, we'll give you a certain return on it, but you can't have it back for like 6 or 12 months.
For that
The
period of
reason
time.
they say that is they use your money to loan to people to get bigger percentages on. They got to know that they can hold it for 6 months or 12 months. So it helps them hold the money longer and make money on your money while they give you a measly little couple percent. So if you're a millionaire, it's a very safe place to make. Sometimes it's a little more than the inflation that's eating your money away. So it might keep up with inflation barely, but usually doesn't. But it's in the order. The next thing that Dave Ramsey pushes really hard is mutual funds. And I thought after mutual funds is stock, I thought I'd explain what mutual funds are a little bit, unless you want to. Do you have a
You
quick
know,
definition of mutual funds?
mutual funds, yeah, mutual funds and stocks have a little bit of crossover to each other, but the reason why mutual funds are safer is because literally like its definition, it's a conglomerate. It's like a bunch of individual stocks that are all mutually similar to each other within a certain sector of the market,
Yep.
and they're all bundled together into one little nice package.
Right.
And you don't have to sit there and do the individual research on each one of them to figure out what it is. So then you can get mutual fund that is a retirement mutual fund that goes for like 5 years to 30 years and anything in between. You could get a sector mutual fund or a hedge fund. You can
Well, you
even
don't have to decide at all. You can open up an account at Edward Jones
yeah,
or
true, or like a Charles Schwab or
and
something.
you go as an agent,
Yeah.
and they'll take a small percentage. If you don't know anything about investing, that's the best place to start. Go in, meet a guy, and they'll usually invest in mutual funds
And
for
they'll
you.
manage it
Because
for you. Yeah.
yeah, they have statistics that the most of the top performing mutual funds haven't lost money in the last whatever, like 100 years, some ridiculous amount of time. So for the most part, be they're gonna make more than inflation is gonna take away from your money. It's a very safe, best place to be because, like you said, it's gonna be a sector of, like, say, utility stocks. All in the utility sector, one guy's managing all of them. As one goes down, they sell it, they buy another one, and so instead of you buying a stock and hoping it's a good one because you don't know, it's a little safer because it's a big grouping. So you've diversified your investment, but it doesn't pay as well as a stock, but it doesn't lose as bad as a stock potentially also. So it's a super safe place to start. That's where my dad started, just giving me mutual funds as a kid. He's starts moving his wealth over. He gives a little bit to me, and I didn't understand mutual funds. They're very unexciting because they just move so slow, very consistent.
But they're
They make
safe.
money.
Yeah.
They're safe. They're safe. And when you're young, you don't want to be safe. You're like, let's do something exciting. And that's what business ownership and when you go into an Edward Jones, they usually ask you, or any of those agencies, what is your risk tolerance? I'm like, risky. They want to know low risk, mid risk, high risk, because they're gonna even within a mutual fund, they have higher risk. It may make a little more this year, but it might lose a little more. But still, over a few years, it's going to make money. And traditionally, high risk is going to make more and lose more. So as you get older and closer to retirement, you want to have those down times less often, so you make less, but you don't lose as much either, because you need that money soon to live on. And when they say ups and downs, a down could be over a whole year, and it might be next year that you're retiring. You don't want that. So when you're younger, you say high risk because you could take a whole year of it being down because you're not using that money anyway. It's just doing this as it's
Hmm.
going up through the years. So after oh, it's on my phone. I was looking on my paper.
Yeah, because then you're
After
in stocks, right? And that's what you put on your mantle and wait for Santa to fill it up for you.
stockings, I love that. That's hilarious. Santa has never done anything with my stocks. I mean, it's funny you say that because a few years ago, my dad actually said, "No more Christmas gifts, no more birthday gifts. I'm just gonna put some money in a Charles Schwab, not is it Charles? Yeah, Schwab account for you because I want you to start investing in stocks and mutual funds or something. Don't take it out. If you take it out, I quit giving it to you." So it kind of was my stocking. hang them on the mantle, huh? And so it is much more risky. It forces you to have to study the market a little, and most of you guys might not, probably don't want to do that, and I get it. But I don't want to study them either. So there's the next step, which you and I have been doing lately, and I just want to put it out there. We created a video on our educational platform, Profitable Stylist at Teachable, and I don't even think it's live yet.
It's the Profitable Stylist Academy.
It's Profitable Stylist Academy. I know I get all the words all mixed up. Sorry about that. So Eddie and I and RJ and a few other friends have been trading options for a few years now and making money every year for a few years. It's about I don't know, we spend 10 or 15, 20 minutes on a Monday morning getting our options trades together, sharing them through a WhatsApp group that we'd love for you to join if you want to do it, and making about 25% on our money or more, which is nice. I mean, because mutual funds are generally around the 10 or 15%, sometimes more, but making 25, sometimes 75% on our money, sometimes less, but an average of 25, 30%. I've been doing well for 3 years doing that. And so I thought, why not teach some people how to do it? So Eddie and I and my brother did a couple of videos like this where we talk about how and why and where we're at with it. And we teach people how to sell calls and sell puts. So we do have training out there. If anybody wants to learn how to do it, let us know, and RJ will open that training up to you. We still need to add some more videos, make it even better, and do some live chats about it. But it's something that was way easier than I expected it to be. Mm-hmm. I was really kind of surprised. My good friend Jude's wife, Shannon, yesterday called me, and she calls me. She never calls. She calls, and I missed a call, so I call her right back, and I said, hello. I thought I was in trouble for something, And she says, so I'm opening this Schwab account for my husband right now. And I said, level 0. She goes, how did you know what I was going to ask?
Everybody gets stuck on the same question every time.
I said, he's a level 0 trader. It sounds so stupid that the 0 is a level. You feel like such a loser when you're like, I'm level 0. I mean, it's such a, why can't it start with 1, So I'm a level 0 trader. Eddie's a level 0 trader.
and I am having a ball. I am having a grand old time.
So she, under her breath, she goes, oh, so covered things? I said, yeah, covered calls and covered puts. That's right. They're covered by money or stocks. Perfect. That's it. I said, do you help with any other questions? She said, no, they're just like, am I married? I know that answer. And so he's getting ready to get a lump sum of money from a business. Somebody's investing in something he's doing. And he said, I don't need the money for anything. So I'm going to put it in a Charles Schwab account. And then I'm going to ask you to help me get started in options trading. Mm-hmm. I said, I'd love to. We'll add you to the WhatsApp group. You can share with us what you're doing, ask questions. And yeah, so it's a pretty fun little growing group that we're doing there.
Really, to put it into perspective.
That's what I want to do. Go ahead.
Because a saving account is going to give you 0.5%, 1/4%, or maybe 1% on an aggressive saving account,
And I think a CD is somewhere around 3%.
A CD, right. And then a CD is kind of double that. It's about 3%, give or take. There's some aggressive CDs that if you put in a high
amount of money,
it'll give you 5%.
5 years. And they got to hold it for many more years, right?
Right. Then mutual funds give you about 6 to 12%, depending on the one that you're doing. And the market, if you speak with an investor or if you speak with a market money manager, and you go to one of these Schwab places or TD Ameritrade or something like that, they believe that 7 to 10% on average every year is considered a good yielding year on your investments. So just that's the industry average. That's the safe bet. Yes. What we're talking about with stocks, they fluctuate up and down. You can hit it big, but you can lose it big. Options trading, like Bernard was mentioning, our goal is to hit double the market's average. So we're projecting about 24, 25, 26%.
So that was a very good summary you just did. I'd like to do the same thing about options trading, because within the options trading world, everybody's got a friend that tried options trading or did it and got hammered, because there's a lot of there's a lot of levels to options trading also. And RJ's done them all. And that's where we've learned from. We were talking about, I've heard some of the terminology used, like a straddle and an iron condor and a butterfly. And I mean, there are some things you can do. And one of the two major categories I've heard people do is there's buys and there's sells. So people call me. Like I got a friend recently has been texting me, "What about Intel? What about Verizon? I'm thinking about buying an option on this." I said, "I'm not talking to you about options because I think you're buying them and I'm selling them." And that's a huge difference. There's so many avenues you can go in the options world. And if I were to say just in the options world, there's low risk and high risk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, options altogether is at the higher risk than all the other things we've talked about, but there is a lower risk way to do it. It's why the weird thing about options is you're not investing in a company necessarily. It's, I hate to say this, but it's a little more like a poker game. There's somebody getting
No, yeah.
money and there's somebody giving money. If you're buying an option, somebody else has to be selling because they're pairing up investors that one person believes a stock is going to go up in value and another person believes it's going to go down in value. We're both in the same platform, and somehow through the World Wide Web they pair us up, and it's almost like betting on a football game. One of us is betting up, one's betting down, and with those people they're buying, and they have to be paired up with sellers. And so the covered part is where you already have a little bit of money or you already have a stock. And I am personally willing to make 25, 26% is actually considered small in the options world. We're willing to make the small money consistently over time, but most people in the options world are not. They are wanting to do like day trading stuff. They want to spend 50 bucks for the possibility of in a week or two or three making $5,000. So they're really trying to multiply their money. And so that's what people come to me and they said, "Yeah, a friend of mine just got into option trading. He made like 10,000 last week." Nope, that's not the kind of option trading I'm doing, because he's just like the casino person that never talks about their losses. Nobody goes to the casino and says, "God, I just lost big." They only tell you when they win, "I just went to the casino and we hit it big." But how many times have you gone since the last time that you told me you won and lost? They don't talk about it. They could lose more money than they win in the same time, and they'll tell you they won 5,000, but they don't tell you it took them
They've
10,000.
lost 15. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they lost $10,000 on the same day, or 3,000, but they won 500. So with the options world, most people are buying the opportunity to make more money, and we are not. We are doing the safest end of the options world. And that's what we teach, and it's pretty freaking consistent and successful. Even through the recession we had last year, we didn't make as much as the 26%, but when people were losing money, we were still making 3 to 10% when people were losing money in the stock world.
So just to put it into perspective, and because this was my first lesson in making a mistake, I accidentally bought and sold 2 trades, and I really goofed up really bad, and it cost me $4,000 each. I could, $2,000 each, so it cost me $4,000, and I was, even with the recession and us not getting back that high 4%, I still was able to recover back the 4,000 that I lost with weekly trades.
Nice. So even with a mistake, you ended up.
It took me to, I made the mistake in March or April, and it took me to the end of the year to make it back. But the point, because the market was so down.
And that was with a $10,000 account. You started with about 10,000.
I started with the 10, and then 2-3 months in, I lost basically half of it.
Almost half of it. Yeah. That was a good lesson though, right? And it was totally you clicking a couple of wrong buttons.
Oh no, I totally goofed. I realized after the fact it was too late. I called you. I was actually laughing. I thought it was hilarious. You were like, "Oh my God. All right, look, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do." I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. We'll figure it out. It's a learning experience.
Right.
And then by the end of the year, I recovered it all back. And now starting off with this year, the market's coming back up and I'm having that much more fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. My brother's, I'm trading with a little bit more money. I started, I don't even think I should say it now, but I was excited. The market
No,
came
you
back
did
and
good. You did good.
yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. I've even taught my dad, who had millions in stocks in the stock market. He was not doing options. I taught him how to do it, encouraged him. He's starting slow, just a little here and a little there, and he's making thousands of dollars a month doing options trading now. So you can do it at a different bunch of different levels. And let me just throw this out there because I know we got really deep in the weeds on options
Yeah,
trading.
because
Because
now we got to go beyond what's next after the market.
let's
You
do
have
that.
retirement funds next, or what do you got next?
I was gonna yeah, and it's not next. It should have been started already.
True.
A person. I'm gonna ask RJ if this is right. I think a Roth IRA is max. You might know too. Maxes out at 7,000 a year.
Six.
Is it six? I
6,000.
thought it went up to seven. So somewhere around six or seven
I
thousand
wish
a
it
year.
would go up to 7,000,
So
but no,
so
currently it's 6,000. Yeah.
so once you get, I don't know where it fits in here either, because you get that emergency fund down, then you're saying save up 6 months of your bills. But I'm thinking after the emergency fund, you probably should be doing both at the same time, moving towards saving enough for 6 months, but also investing in the future. And so if you can afford it, you should take that, go, find a guy that could sign you up for opening up a Roth IRA. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA.
Okay.
But you should be the Roth IRA has more benefits, so it has some limitations, and it limits how much you can put in because of how much better it is. So take that 6,000, and are you going to put in towards it weekly or monthly?
Well,
Divide it by
no. Uh, a Roth IRA, you can only do it caps at 6,000 a year. A
well, that's
traditional IRA has no limitation. You can put as
right.
much.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you should do a Roth IRA, and I'll explain why in a minute. Unless you're older, a traditional might make sense. But the Roth IRA, since you can only put in 6,000, I would take that 6,000 divided by how many weeks are in a year, 52 weeks, and then put that amount away each week to invest in it during the year. And it's not the calendar year. I think you can do it up till tax time or something into the next couple of months. But the guy who's going to open it for you would be that Edward Jones or Charles Schwab guy. So get with them, tell them you want to open a Roth IRA, and then start saving towards it. And that is the first step of saving towards retirement that benefits you in taxes. So do you know the tax ramifications for each?
Yeah,
You want to talk about?
because and then RJ just clarified it for me too. So with a Roth IRA, he's saying 6,500. So
I knew it went up from 6,000, but I wasn't sure how much.
oh,
Okay.
that's exciting. I love that. That's awesome
You need
because
to up yours now.
hell yeah. So if you're under 50 years old, Roth IRA 6,500 now is your cap, and then if you're over 50 years old, then 75. So that's where you were getting your 7,000 number
I'm 53.
because your grandpa,
So I'm
right?
probably doing 7,500. I'm going to double
No,
check because I might be at 7,000.
because the difference being with a traditional IRA, it's based off your gross. You could put in as much as you want. It's not taxed when you're putting that money in. But on the back end, eventually, when you start taking money out, that's
No,
when
Roth is taxed on the way in.
I'm saying, no, for the traditional IRA,
Oh, okay. Okay.
traditional IRA, when it's off your gross in the beginning, so you could just put in as much as you want, and then there's no
Right.
limitation. But the trade-off is later on when you start drawing back from it, when you start taking money back from it, that you pay your taxes later, which means you're not going to be touching that anytime soon. And if you do, there's some penalties involved with early withdrawals and things like that. A
So
Roth
the
IRA,
reason, but wait, before you go in the Roth, this is
okay,
why with that traditional IRA, the thought is you're putting in a little bit each month when you're 20, 30, 40 years old, and it's growing to this giant amount of money.
yeah,
And
right.
so it's beneficial to not, take that money off of you don't pay taxes on the money if you get rid of it because you're putting it towards retirement. That's why you can't take it back out and use it like a savings. They penalize you because you're not paying taxes on it. But the thought process is over your lifetime, let's say you put in $100,000 slowly over 10, 20, 30 years. Well, then if you're putting it in the right stocks and mutual funds, that's why we talked about that. Your investor will help you with that. It will turn into $1 million. And so then you're going to pay taxes on $1 million later. That's why they don't care how much you put away in the beginning, because they're going to get you on the taxes later. The challenge then is you only pay taxes on the amount you pull out each year. And so people are saying, what lifestyle are you going to live when you're retired at 65 or whatever it is? You might be pulling out 100,000 a year or 300,000 a year. And so depending on how much you pull out will determine what tax bracket you're in. The more you pull out, the more taxes you pay. And most people say you're going to probably, when you get a little older, you'll want to travel a little, but you won't have the bills you have. Hopefully you got your house and your credit cards all paid off. So you don't need to pull as much money out. You can live great on less money and pay less taxes, because your income now is the amount of money you pull out of that IRA, and you can make it look like you don't make a ton of money and pay less taxes on a whole lot of money over time. And so with a Roth IRA, it's the opposite. They limit how much you can put in, because you pay taxes now on that 100,000 going in, but then when it turns into $1 million over the years, you don't pay taxes on that $1 million
because you've paid it up front.
The money going in over time, which is the, is a trade-off. So some older people, they're getting closer to retirement. The traditional might make more sense because there's no limit to how much they can put in, and it's not going to grow a whole lot. So put a whole lot in when you're getting closer to retirement, and it's not. But either way,
I want to shout out a number.
What's that?
I want to shout out a number.
Go.
For all you 20, 30-year-olds watching this, do the Roth IRA right now. Start a Roth IRA right now.
You don't have to do the whole 6,500 a year.
No. You do.
You should.
Take my advice. Do it. Pop in. I don't care. Rob your parents. Break your cookie jars. No, don't rob your parents, but break your cookie jars, or piggy bank cookie jars, piggy banks. Look, cap off your max retirement, 6,000, 6,500.
If you did it 1 week, if you did every week, it's only $125 a week.
$125 a week, but it uses compounding interest, and that gets complicated real fast trying to figure out the math on that. Yeah. But to put it in perspective, 6,000, I'm using the old numbers because now they've raised it to 65. I'm just learning. So 6,000 a year, every year for 30 years, you will yield with compounding interest $1.3 million. It's freaking awesome. For $125 a week.
Conservative numbers.
And it's not your emergency fund. This is after you've saved your first 1,000. This is after then you've built up, I don't know, to me, a 6 months emergency fund is really good. A year is awesome if you can do it.
And you might get to where you got 2 months of emergency fund and bills
covered. It is, yeah.
You start doing both, but you still keep saving towards 6 months. I agree.
Yeah, but if you can cap that Roth IRA, man, if you can get yourself a retirement fund and start it now, and especially if you're at a job where, like some jobs, they have the retirement funds and they'll match your contribution. It's called your contribution from your paycheck. So if you're doing 8% or 10%, the company might match up to a certain percentage or that full percentage that you're doing. If you're working for a business that does that, take advantage of that big time. Totally take advantage of that. There's also 401ks that do that as well too. And if you can get into a 401k, take advantage of that as well.
Definitely. I bet you the investment part of this has bored some people, and I apologize. It needs to be done, but it's not fun. It's not exciting for a lot of people. They're like, I thought we were going to talk about that hair behind you,
Well, okay, fine. Do you want to do the hairdressers behind the chair version of working for today versus working for tomorrow?
I don't know what that means.
To take about 2 minutes.
Well, so often I'm seeing on Facebook or at these hair shows, we've got 70, 75-year-old hairdressers still doing hair, saying to me, I wish my back, my neck, my shoulders, I wish I would have did some savings. I wish I would have done something different. I wish I had some kind of nest egg. I have to keep doing hair or I can't pay my bills. That makes me sad. That's sad.
Yeah.
I'm 53 and I haven't done hair behind the chair in about 10 years because I've done some things right. Now mine's moved into the business ownership sort of thing, and I don't want to discount that. Making money with your physical body is going to be number one before you understand anything else. But as you're doing that, you got to think about the future, even if it's your physical body doing more work in the future, and then assistance, and then the business ownership, and then what can you get people to do that you just oversee and manage before you start moving into all these other investments. And at the same time, you can be doing a lot of this other stuff. So I don't know. I just want to open people's minds to all of this.
And then the obvious thing that we kind of glazed over, we were thinking about more the financial side of things. Invest into yourself as well. Invest into your education, invest into your body, your physical body and your health, invest into your mental mind, and, you know, enjoy yourself, man. Don't just be stressed out all the time. Enjoy yourself. If it could be made fun of, make fun of it relentlessly. And if you don't think it should be made fun of, make fun of it in your mind or with your own little circle of friends. Don't do it publicly. So that's what I'm ending with. That's what I got.
Oh yeah, I just wrapped up. I wrapped mine up. I hate seeing 70, 80-year-old men and women out there
No, it sucks,
back
man.
at a class that I'm taking saying, I'm back here because I didn't do it right when I was younger and I have to keep doing hair. Wish I didn't have to. And I feel bad for them. Many times it's still not too late for them. It's amazing what you can save in 5 or 10 years if you really try hard.
If you're motivated,
So,
yeah.
yes, you're right. God, if you're in your 20s or 30s doing hair right now and you just start saving 125 a week, it turns into millions. It turns into much more. Done. Got to go to work, Eddie.
All right. Thanks, guys, for watching. Let us know what your guys' saving strategies are. What do you guys recommend? What has worked for you? And we have a special guest next week, so we'll catch you all next week.
If you hung on this long, we should have said that in the beginning. We're going to interview who? The lady who's kind of running.
I was just about to end the thing.
But the lady who's going to run in the Chicago Hair Show.
ABS, America's
Nobody's
Beauty
listening.
Show. Man, come on. No, Jesse Marshall, who is in charge of the education for America's Beauty Show, is going to be our special guest speaker next Thursday. So thanks, guys, for watching. Check us out next week. We'll catch you later.